All right. Let's see here. What exactly is going on? It's been a little bit since I've done one of these. So yeah, I took a little break because it was the end of the semester for my university, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. And usually at the end of the semester, I do like this intensive 3 weeks of like an Adobe Creative Cloud overview for students in the summer. It's like an intensive summer course kind of thing. And now that that's over, here we are, right? I hope the audio levels are okay here. As you can see, I've simplified, those of you who have seen my streams before, I've simplified quite a bit the stuff that I have here. Oh, look at that, the chat is off. Why is that? I cannot turn my chat on, unfortunately. Why? Oh, there we go. All right, the chat should be on now. That was weird. Anyhow, yeah, the chat should be on. So, yeah, you can tell it's been a while. Anyhow, yeah, I've simplified the whole streaming thing here. Very simple, very simple. So, let's get on with it. So, yeah, the main thing that I want to look at today is Project Neo, which is in beta. And it's a public beta. As you can see right here, you go to projectneo.adobe.com. And yeah, let's pop that into our chat. Make it very easy for a big click on it. But yeah, and this is weird. Project Neo. So yeah, if we look down here, we can see a number of different things that people have created with this software. And what it is it allows you to create things with 3D objects, but not for 3D, which is kind of weird. You create things in 3D for 2D. So it's one of those intersectional things, right? Similar, it would fit in perfectly with my recent book, Adobe 3D Creative Workflows. Or is it Creative 3D Workflows? I can't quite remember. But yeah, it's that intersection between 2D stuff and 3D stuff in the Adobe world. This predates the book, so it's not included in there, but it fits in, right? It's the same sort of stuff that we're thinking about, how to work with 2D and 3D together. So let's have a look here. When you go in, you just start designing. It'll drop you into a new project when you say create design. And yes, here we go. It is web-based also, so it's something that's only accessible in the web browser. And whenever you create a new project, they drop you into this environment here. It's a 3D environment where you have different objects. They'll give you a cube, and they give you a flat plane to work with. And we've got a layers panel here where we can see each of these. And of course, as we select each one, the properties panel changes so that we can adjust the properties of these. So if I wanted to change the color of this object here, I could do so. We also have gradient, image. I'm just going to use a solid there. Over on the side here, we can toggle these different panels. So we got our properties, we've got our layers here. This brings up a bigger layers panel, and it behaves like you would expect the layers panel to behave. We have visibility and so forth. We've got a library here of materials, backgrounds, lights. But yeah, properties is probably the easiest. And you can tab through these. It shows everything by default. But if you want to focus on you know, only the object properties, only the shape properties. And there's some neat things that are in here. It's almost like a combination between Illustrator and some of the Substance 3D stuff. And it's meant to be output to Illustrator, which is kind of the weird part, right? So like if we choose to download this right here, you can see we can download a PNG, a JPEG, and SVG. Oh, that's interesting. MP4 video is new. I have not actually seen that before. But yeah, when you download these things, you know, you download an SVG and you can bring that open in Illustrator and it's just vectors, right? So it's meant to produce vectors primarily. So you don't create 3D objects with this thing. Even though you work in 3D, that's not what you're creating, which is weird. It's a weird approach. Now, I am very interested in how we would export this as a MP4. What do we have here? Show hide orbit controls. We've got, I don't want to explode anything. It seems cruel. But yeah, we got some camera controls here. Like here's our orbit tool. So we can move that around. We also have these guys up top here that allow you to do those same things in across both axes, right? But yeah, we're working in 3D space when it comes to Project Neo and producing 2D content. Yeah, so my input device here is actually a trackpad, so I'm gonna switch to the trackpad. Object snapping, autofocus, group outline, legacy 3D gizmos. Oh, interesting. Yeah, and then we can change the styles. So realistic, we got expressive, that renders it with like an outline. And then we have pixel art, which I find completely useless in my explorations of this. Maybe for some people it's good. It's not the best for me. It just makes everything look like trash, as far as I can tell. I usually keep things on realistic, because everything looks very soft inside of this particular software. We got our scale here, so we can push that up, right? Scale it along different axes. Here, if I choose this guy, move him up a little bit, we got our position, rotation along the side here. So all this stuff we can use to make these adjustments. This is like a corner roundness. What's it called over here? Here we got corners, right? But yeah, you get some interesting stuff. So like if I add another object here, like maybe this drop. And the idea here is that you build up different things and they can merge together, right? So like if I go over here, you can see these two guys are kind of merged together here, right? And there's different combinations. They almost work like pathfinders in Illustrator. So I could say carve, and we can see here, right? It actually carves that out. We've got intersect, color. They're both the same color, so it doesn't do anything. Repel and avoid. And we can change our blending. So really interesting way of controlling things. Like, look at that. So yeah, the idea is putting these different objects together, these different sort of primitive objects, and then using these controls to create something. So I've added and blended all that together to make sort of like a little mountain right there, which is kind of fun. I can change the color of this object, this mountain, something a little more earthen. And then this guy here, represented over here, is still white. Let's change that to like green. So like grassy side of a mountain, right? Now let's change this to more of an earthen look. And there we go. In a couple minutes, I've gone ahead and just created this little mountain peak with an isolated existence. Trying to get this prison so small. There we go. Get my controls down here when it comes to how this stuff works. But yeah, there's a little mountain peak. It's grassy on one side, the other side a little bit more stony. And that's the basic idea behind what you can do with Project Neo right now. But yeah, they've got all sorts of primitive shapes here that you can use, which is nice. Let's see, what else do I want to do here? I do want to explore, like, what? How would I download this as an MP4 file? Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is interesting. This is a lot of the same stuff that Substance 3D Stager has. Hey, Chris. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're on here, you can see Chris just posted in the chat. Definitely click on Chris's little icon there. You can follow him on Behance. He's a well-known animator, Adobe Max speaker for a number of years. Very similar to the stuff I've done with Adobe Max. Mostly on Animate, Flash. I did a bunch of stuff with Edge Animate for Max a couple of years while Adobe had that around. But yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, Chris, I don't know if you've messed with Project Neo yet. But yeah, it looks like they added this MP4 video option in the last couple days. Because I did show Project Neo to my students 2 weeks ago when I was doing a summer class. And this option, MP4 video, wasn't there yet. So I'm pretty sure this is new. And I was looking around trying to figure out, like, where do I get to it, right? Because I don't see any video controls, any animation controls here. But it turns out, yeah, you click on MP4 video and then you've got your motion controls. And they're very simple, just like Substance 3D Stager. Man, this is taking up, like, I got some crazy mouse lag going on here with OBS streaming and Project Neo, my browser, and all this. Which, it was a lot smoother before too. I never had an issue with it before. But yeah, we got basic turntable. Check out Boomerang. Yeah. So back and forth in a loop. And shadow play. I'm not sure what the heck that does. Oh, it moves the lighting around. That's pretty cool. You got your quality settings here, so maybe I'll take those down to low. Maybe that might help with my browser issues. You got duration and rotation. I don't see anything with easing or anything like that in here, but hey, you know, like I said, it's a new thing, right? So yeah, but the idea, and this is the weird thing about Project Neo, is that you're working in this 3D space to produce 2D content. So I change it to expressive. That's something you can download as an SVG. And once you download it, you can open it up inside of Adobe Illustrator and continue modifying it. Right? Yeah. Well, anyway. Oh, you know what? One thing I did want to mention. Some more of these parallels with Illustrator. Like if I grab a sphere and put it right here. I got my little sphere. Let's go ahead and scale that down a bit. Sometimes the controls are very finicky with this stuff. Like hello. My goodness. Why is that? So you can see, It's moving my properties panel text onto here as I'm trying to scale it. So obviously we've got some issues here. Let's give this another shot. And this is always a problem with web-based stuff, right? I can't seem to constrain the scale here. Yeah, OBS has been good for me. Chris mentions in the chat, for those who didn't see it, that OBS can have driver conflicts and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's worked out pretty well for me. I didn't really use it before 2020. Before Adobe kind of onboarded a couple of us Adobe education leaders to do these Behance live streams. But, you know, ever since setting it up, it's been pretty stable for me. I haven't had a lot of issues with it. I have noticed just in general with a lot of different things, if I'm on a Teams call or a Zoom meeting, and then I've got like some Substance 3D stuff open, something that's very demanding, you know, that can get a little crazy when it comes to resources on my machine, but usually it's pretty good. Oh, let's see. So the Adobe Create event, was that the Boston on location event, Chris? We've got a couple of those coming up in my area in September. There's one in Denver and one in Boulder that I've seen. So I'm considering attending one or both of those. We'll see. And it's during the school year, so it'd be a fun thing for my students to go to too, I would imagine. Especially since they're having one in Boulder. Boston and Worcester. Yeah, Worcester. Yeah. So I grew up right outside of Worcester, in a village called Rochdale. I lived there for somewhere around 22 years, 23 years. Yeah. Village of Rochdale, inside of the town of Leicester, right outside of Worcester, all central Massachusetts, near Auburn and Charleston and Charlton. Yeah, Charlton. Oh, did Liz pronounce it like Worcestershire? I always hear people say like Worcestershire. It's like, no, it's Worcester. But yeah, local dialect, Worcester, Boston, Worcester. Yeah. Oh, but anyway, I'm getting like super sidetracked, which is fine. These aren't meant to be, you know, like LinkedIn Learning stuff or anything, right? Yeah, this is what I was trying to get to here. The repetition. So just like inside of Illustrator, you can do like repeat along a grid or an angle or something like that, right? Create a number of copies of an object. Let's see if I can crash my browser, everyone. Yeah, I flew into the Worcester Regional Airport. This was probably 20 years ago. And yeah, the stewardess, you know, when they make the announcements when you land, she's like, yeah, welcome to Worcester. I'm just like, it's not that hard. Worcester, Leicester. Framingham. I spent a lot of time in Auburn. I had my first job in Auburn. And you know what's funny? I don't know, Chris, if you know Ben Farrell, works for Adobe. I found out a few years ago that he actually worked. So I worked back when I was in doing my undergrad stuff, I worked at a Pier 1 Imports in Auburn, Massachusetts. And inside of that plaza where the Pier 1 was a Staples. And I found out that Ben Farrell actually worked at that Staples at the same time that I worked at the Pier 1 Imports. Very weird coincidence. And we didn't know each other at that point. Yeah. Ben Farrell, he does, I don't know exactly what team he's on with Adobe. Yeah, he does some rather experimental kind of stuff for them. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I was doing a workshop for EdgeGain in Adobe 2 summers ago. It was a workshop on Animate, and you know, we do like introduction. There's usually like a small amount of people doing these like all day workshops. And there was this guy, I don't remember what his name was, but you know, we do introductions. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, I'm from Leicester, Massachusetts. I was like, huh? Like, really? And he's like, yeah. Like, here I am in my house in Leicester, Massachusetts. And I was like, that's crazy. Oh. Anyway, I think I've kind of... There we go. Look at all the stupid little spheres I made. Yeah, but this, you can imagine, like the repetition controls that we have inside of Illustrator. Look at all the spheres I've made, everyone. Here, let me teach you all how to crash your web browser. Oh. It's probably because of OBS. I can tell my video looks like it's kind of glitchy too. So, it's one of the drawbacks of doing stuff around some of this more intensive 3D kind of things, right? Let's see. How have I been doing here? I'm going for about 23 minutes. So, usually I like to keep these pretty short. So, my coffee's almost done. But yeah, I hope to be doing some more of these over the summer months. Fall semester starts up pretty much in September. So I've got quite some time to fill up with different projects and things like that. And I do have a number of things going on in terms of both personal creative projects, community projects, and some business projects for LinkedIn Learning and so forth. So, yay. One thing I don't have going on is I don't have any writing going on. I'm not writing any books right now. My last book is out, and I'm hoping to take a nice break from that stuff because it's an insane amount of work. Chris knows. He's got a number of books on Animate, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Writing a book is such a pain. I mean, it's a great thing. I enjoy it, regardless of how difficult it is and how much time it takes. But man, it's a process. And I'm glad I don't have one going on right now because I need a break. Yeah, I've never done layout, Chris. I've never done layout for my books. Usually my publishers, they take care of all that thing, thankfully. But you do have to go through and approve like each step of the way. So like once it goes through layout, you got to look through the whole stupid book. If it's like 300-400 pages, you got to read your book, and you end up reading your book like 3 or 4, 5 times before it actually gets published, just reading over it, making corrections. And... it's awful. That part's not very fun. But actually writing the stuff and coming up with the material and putting it together, that kind of first part, I think is very fun. And of course, once it actually gets published, it's a nice thing. So, all right. Well, that's enough of that junk. Oh, InDesign. Yeah, InDesign. Yeah, I have never had a publisher offer me the option of doing the layout myself. Usually they're just like, here's our Word template, these are our styles, make it match, assign everything correctly, and we'll take care of it. And they do, my understanding is they do like an ingest of those Word documents into InDesign where they have their own styles, and that's pretty much that. Yeah. We should do a live stream sometime, Chris, like you and me and some other people, maybe Tom, Myra, just talking about book stuff. Actually, I want to do more of those. Like during the lockdown period of the pandemic, um, I had a number of different things that I did where I tried to do kind of one-on-one chats with people. But for the Adobe Community Experts a few years back, some of us did like a panel chat with like four people who are experts in certain things like Animate. Yeah, that might be something for me to think about as a summer project. So, I like to do streams like this where I'm just messing with stuff, but they oftentimes do devolve into just chitter chatter, which is fine too. But yeah, things like that are interesting when you can get some people with a similar but different experience together, to just talk about processes and so forth, even apart from creative software, like experience with publishing houses and layout, and maybe even like something about get a couple of former seasoned Mac speakers to talk about their experiences doing workshops and creating workbooks for Max Labs, or doing presentations and getting that stuff together, slide decks, and just reminisce about the good old days, things like that. Anyhow, if anybody has any ideas about stuff like that, please do message me. I'll try to incorporate that stuff into future streams. We can bring everybody across in a Zoom or something and have a little panel discussion every couple weeks. That might be fun. Good summer project. Yeah, so more on that later, but yeah, I think this is a good point to stop today because I'm rambling. All right. Well, thanks for joining. I see there are still quite a few people here. So yeah, this is a good return to streams. Very simple, very short, but this was fun. Thank you, Chris, for joining and chatting with me about these different things. And yeah, I'll see everybody some other time. Let's close out the stream and hope everybody has a good rest of your day, rest of your week. Have a nice weekend. I'll pop on some other time. I don't know when. Ooh.